Hello and welcome to game number 8 of the best of 15 series between ThomasHiatt and ZLO. They are playing on Eye of the Storm, 10 by 10 map. Quite a lot of water in the middle. Look at that. That's a big lake and a tiny little island right smack dab in the center with 4 mexes. But before I get too far into detail about the map, let's talk about the score for a second. ZLO up 6-1 against ThomasHiatt, giving ThomasHiatt quite the uphill battle here. Right now, ZLO on the bottom right side with green UEF, sending an NG over here to the hydrocarbon. Just a typical Eye of the Storm build order. ThomasHiatt on the top left side, gray UEF, sending a couple NGs down to the hydrocarbon. You can see that ThomasHiatt has queued up 5 pigeons here in the core mex area, followed by an air factory. More air factories to come from these engineers near the hydrocarbon. And ZLO has something very similar planned. Except ZLO built some mech marine. Ooh, he's waiting a little too long with that mech marine. It's not going to be worth much if he doesn't send it over to Thomas's side. ThomasHiatt building a tank after 5 NGs, meaning that he may be prepared to defend against this mech marine. Really depends on which side Thomas is going to send his tank. Looks like he's going to send it south. Good move. Anticipating that perhaps his opponent may be sending something sneaky over here to this high value area here. 5 mexes here in this small space. A raid could do some eco damage. So ThomasHiatt preemptively sending his tank over to the bottom left side. ZLO sending another mech marine to the top right. Might occupy this peninsula with that mech marine. But ThomasHiatt built only 1 tank. He's not prepared to defend the northern part of the map, though he may anticipate something headed up here. Maybe he'll build a tank, or send his second tank, rather, over to this peninsula. Timed so that it reaches the peninsula at around the same time as that NG. Well done. Both ECUs appearing to eye the middle island here. They're already submerged in the lake, walking to the middle. There's a few rocks actually, worth 113 mass each. Whosoever gets those rocks will be up around 400 reclaim. ThomasHiatt with 3 air factories, and he's following those air factories with land factories. Of course, air being so important here because the need to defend these peninsular mexes. Quite a lot of options to take out those mexes if your opponent does not have air. Thomas anticipating this mech marine position, sends that tank down, and now ZLO, caught red-handed, tries to escape with that mech marine, or at least maneuver it, but Of course, that Mech Marine, no match for a striker. And a small air engagement over here. 5 minutes in. ZLO giving chase to Thomas's 7 interceptors. With 1 fewer interceptor, it looks like. But 1 interceptor gets shot down. Nothing but a cloud of smoke left of that interceptor. Thomas reaches the middle first with his ACU. And he's about to build a land factory after taking this rock. But ZLO, oh, before I go on about that, let's see this air engagement take place. Small dogfight over here over this peninsula. ThomasHiatt initially getting a good positioning on ZLO, ends up losing the battle as his air micro suffers a little bit there. Now, what's left of Thomas's Air Force being cleaned up by ZLO's interceptors. Okay, so this middle island land factory finishes. Looks like ZLO's the player that queued up that factory. Not sure how. Well, ZLO building that factory did not fire at all on Thomas's ACU, so we can see that ZLO's ACU has lost quite a bit of HP. But because that factory did finish after all, Thomas, faced with Tech 1 land units, these RDs chasing Thomas out of the wire. I don't know how necessary that is for Thomas to retreat so quickly. He could have reclaimed that factory and taken more than just rock reclaim. ZLO would have, of course, had to have fired on Thomas's ACU for quite a bit before being able to do some damage. Thomas would have been able to reclaim that factory and retained a hefty amount of health on his ACU. But Thomas allows ZLO to take the middle island and retreats to the bottom left corner. He sees or has decided that the middle island not worth it, because Thomas, of course, does have the top right corner. He thinks that perhaps by concentrating some additional firepower on the bottom left side with his ACU, he can take both corners here, top right and the bottom left. And that'll be a good start for ThomasHiatt here. Thomas with Tech 2 Air now. But, of course, ZLO did win air. So Thomas, well, that was a while ago. Thomas did recoup some of those losses. So it looks kind of even in terms of interceptor numbers. So we'll have to wait and see if the Tech 2 Air will be useful for Thomas or not. Now, Thomas sending pretty respectable number of tanks down the right side. These 3 mexes are in danger. ZLO does not have many tanks down here. Already, torp armor is out for Thomas. You can see that Thomas taking the top right and bottom left corners have really pushed him ahead of ZLO here in terms of eco. 51 mass per tick over 39 for ZLO. So ZLO concentrating more on upgrading mexes, neglecting map control a little bit. Thomas non-stop pumping those tanks out, and ZLO does not have the factories to be able to defend. I mean, he does have the factories now, but what was he building before? Well, he wasn't really building units so much as upgrading his mexes, so I'd attribute some of this unit disparity to the somewhat early mechs upgrades, and now a large air engagement between ThomasHiatt and ZLO. ThomasHiatt losing pretty decisively here, so Thomas not going to be able to make use of his Tech 2 Air. Not anytime soon anyway. ZLO sending his ACU down to rebuff Tom's advances on the southern part of the map. An anti-air defense erected by ZLO, removing the possibility for Thomas to take out these mexes with bombers. ZLO was seeing this pretty substantial group of tanks coming down the right side. He hasn't built anything to defend. Not a single point defense. Very poor decision or lack of action from ZLO. Very surprising. And now Thomas is going to be able to lay waste to ZLO's power field, completely obliterate this power grid. So this raid here on the bottom right, I think, is gonna do it for ThomasHiatt here. That was a pretty rapid control, or shift of control. Thomas, all he had to do was make tanks and send them down this beach, around the lake, past the peninsulas, and just walk into ZLO's base. Pretty effortless from Thomas here. ZLO did manage to secure the middle island, but by sacrificing these positions, ZLO has really fallen behind in eco and tank production. And building these mechs is really crippled ZLO right from the start. Now, 12 minutes in, ZLO's ACU very alone. Well, that's not quite alone, really. He does have this group of tanks back here. In fact, most of his units are right here with his ACU, but now Thomas sending all of his tanks down the bottom left side. ZLO's ACU very vulnerable to air attack. Soon the reinforcements will cease to arrive for ZLO. I think that's pretty much the game. What happened that game? Well, we saw that ThomasHiatt concentrated on expanding to the top right and the bottom left very quickly, with some attention paid to the middle. Thomas did send his ACU down to the middle, meeting ZLO's ACU, but I think they both concentrated. ZLO concentrating on the middle a little bit too much and upgrading his mixes, neglected to fight for the corner expansions. Neglected it completely. Did not lift more than 2 fingers to oppose the expansion by ThomasHiatt into the top right corner. In fact, ZLO watched as Thomas descended with his army down the right side. Check out these mexes. ZLO allowed Thomas to walk into his base. Of course, surely not the way ZLO wanted this game to go, but being even a little late on the trigger can have some devastating consequences here. I think ZLO didn't expect Thomas's advance to happen as quickly as he thought, or as we saw. Thomas mobilizing land very quickly after he built his air factories. And even though he did lose air a couple times, Thomas went virtually unopposed as he just mobilized his units, rushed over around this beach, took out Slow's base. That's it, 15 minutes. Thomas with a very easy win, and that puts Thomas up to 2 points against Slow's 6. Are we witnessing a comeback here? Let's see how Thomas' momentum holds in Game 9. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next game.